Over-accommodating, you tell yourself you're just being kind. That it's good to be easygoing, flexible, understanding. You say yes because you want to make things easier for everyone else. But over time that kindness starts to ache. Because somewhere between all those it's okays and no worries, you stop noticing how often you were swallowing your own needs. That's the quiet truth of over-accommodating. It doesn't look toxic. It looks generous. It looks selfless. But beneath the surface, it's a slow erosion of boundaries, of self-respect, of emotional energy. You think you're keeping the peace, but really, you're just postponing the moment someone finally sees who you really are. Because when you keep saying yes even when it hurts, you're teaching people that your comfort is optional. That your needs can wait. That your limits don't exist. And after a while, they start believing it. You cancel your plans to help them move. You stay up late to listen, even when you're exhausted. You agree to things you don't want just to avoid disappointing someone. And they thank you, they smile, but something inside you tightens just a little more each time. You tell yourself, I'm just being nice. But what if that niceness is actually fear? Fear of rejection. Fear of being seen as difficult. Fear that if you ever said no, they'd stop loving you. That's what makes over-accommodation so deceptive. It's not love-driven, it's anxiety-driven. It's not generosity, it's self-erasure disguised as care. Pause, quieter, reflective, and ironically, it doesn't draw people closer. It pushes them away. Because when you never stand your ground, people can't feel your edges, and without edges, they can't feel your presence. You become easy to lean on but hard to truly see. Soft emotional swell. The truth is, real love doesn't want your compliance. It wants your truth. It wants you to show up as a full, feeling, imperfect human being. So the next time your heart whispers no, listen. The next time your energy feels drained but your mouth wants to say sure, pause. Because every honest no protects the meaning of your yes. Music softens into hope. Boundaries aren't walls. They're invitations to meet you honestly, not just conveniently. To love the real you, not the version that never says no. So stop saying yes to be liked. Start saying yes when you actually mean it. That's not selfishness. That's integrity. Oz closing line, gentle but firm. Sometimes, the kindest thing you can do is stop abandoning yourself in the name of kindness. 2. Suppressing your real opinions. Soft ambient music fades in calm, introspective atmosphere. You think you're keeping the peace. You think you're being mature, understanding, agreeable. So when someone says something you don't like, you nod. You smile. You tell yourself, it's not worth it. But deep down, something inside you flinches. Because every time you silence your truth to make someone else comfortable, a small part of you disappears from the room. Pause, voice softens. This is what happens when you suppress your real opinions. You stop being known. People still talk to you, still hang out with you, but they're connecting with a version of you that doesn't really exist. A version built from your politeness, your fear, your need to be accepted. And eventually, even you forget what your real thoughts sound like. Music shifts, slightly darker undertone. You start to say things like, it's fine, I don't mind, or, whatever you want is okay. You trade authenticity for approval, and mistake harmony for connection. But here's the quiet tragedy, agreeableness doesn't create closeness, it creates distance. Because without friction, without honesty, there's no truth. And without truth, there's no trust. Pause. When you never disagree, people stop asking what you think. When you never assert, people stop considering your perspective. And when you always agree, people stop respecting your words because they can't tell what's real anymore. Music softens, voice gentler. You might believe that honesty will scare people away. But what really scares people is emptiness. When they can't feel you. When every conversation feels like walking on emotional glass, polite, smooth, forgettable. Honesty, even uncomfortable honesty, gives relationships texture. It gives them depth. So when you hide your opinions, you're not avoiding conflict, you're avoiding intimacy. Music swells softly, emotional reflection. There's a difference between kindness and silence. Kindness says, I care about you enough to be honest. Silence says, I care about you too much to be real. And the longer you choose silence, the louder the resentment grows. Because deep down, you know the truth you're hiding is the bridge you actually need to build. Oz voice warmer, hopeful, so start small. Disagree gently. Say, I actually see it differently, or, that doesn't sit right with me, can we talk about it? You don't need to shout your truth to be heard. You just need to stop whispering it to yourself. Music fades into a soft resolve because people can only love you to the depth that they can know you. And no one can know you if you keep editing yourself to be likable. Pause closing line, so stop chasing peace at the cost of your voice. Your truth might shake things up, but it's the only thing strong enough to keep your connections real. 3. Apologizing too much. Soft piano and rain sounds fade in slow, reflective tone. You say, I'm sorry, when someone bumps into you. You say sorry when you speak, when you exist too loudly, when you take up space that was always yours to begin with. At first, it feels polite, considerate, thoughtful. But over time, it becomes something else, a quiet apology for being human. Pause gentle, melancholic. That's the heartbreak of over-apologizing. It's not just about words. It's about identity. When you apologize too much, you start to believe you're inconvenient. That your needs are interruptions, your emotions are burdens, your boundaries are mistakes. Music deepens slightly, voice steadier. You're not saying I'm sorry anymore because you did something wrong. You're saying it because somewhere along the line, you learned that existing without shrinking makes people uncomfortable. So you shrink. You soften your tone. You second-guess your messages before sending them. You rehearse conversations in your head to make sure no one feels upset. You think you're keeping the peace, but what you're really doing is erasing yourself to earn permission to stay. Pause, softer tone, and here's the cruel irony: the more you apologize, the less people hear you. Because constant apologies don't sound humble, they sound hollow. They train others to expect you to take the blame, to carry the emotional weight of every situation. It's not their fault, you taught them to. Music softens reflective mood. You say, I'm sorry, when someone cancels on you. You say, I'm sorry, for feeling sad, for asking for help, for simply being affected by life. And little by little, those apologies chip away at your self-worth. Until one day, you realize you've built an entire identity around guilt that was never yours to hold. Oz emotional crescendo. But here's the truth you were never told: you don't owe an apology for having emotions. You don't owe one for needing space, or rest, or honesty. You don't owe one for being imperfect. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can say isn't I'm sorry. It's thank you for understanding. Or even simpler, this matters to me. Music lifts gently, hopeful tone, because when you stop apologizing for existing, you start reclaiming the parts of you that forgot they were allowed to. You start walking into rooms without shrinking. You start speaking without rehearsing. You start realizing that love doesn't require guilt, it requires presence. Oz quiet closing reflection. So if you've been living in constant apology, take a deep breath. You are not a disturbance. You are not too much. You are simply trying to belong, and you don't have to say I'm sorry to deserve that.